welcome to the live stream of the Engadget Podcast recording. This is the team that you see here on the screen. I am Deputy Editor Sherlyn Lowe. Joining me as guest co-host is Senior Editor Sam Rutherford. Hey, Sam.
Hey, how's it going?
Between us, you have our podcast producer, Ben Elman. We're making a Ben sandwich today. Hey, Ben.
Hello.
And yes, we did indeed accidentally use the graphic that said the podcast was over. Thanks for watching. Sorry. Whoops. That's on Julio. Julio's saying, "Yep."
We're still warming up.
Julio. Yeah. I mean, like, this has only been 2 years that we've been doing this. Almost 2 years that we've been doing this. You know, we're bound to still make some beginner mistakes. So
yeah, the podcast is basically, or the video part of the podcast is basically just a toddler. It doesn't even know how to feed itself.
Yeah. And dog years, it's almost an adult. But anyway, we did get some very funny comments already in the chat before things kicked off. But first, hi to everyone that's here. Hello to Mark Dell, Andrew Littman, Buddy305 Love, Jimmy Fire Dragon, Michael Coley, Kenny Holland. Yeah, Marion, Brian, and Vikram. Hello. But Sam, do you want to shout out the comment that we found very funny?
Yeah, I believe it was Buddy305 Love who, because we're going to talk about the OnePlus 10T later, and he made a joke. It's like, oh, they should just call it the OnePlus 10Y because why does it exist? And yeah, well, we're going to get into that. Thank you, Buddy. That was a great comment.
Now, if you're new to this stream, just as an explainer of what's going on here, this is a behind-the-scenes look at how we record the audio version of the Engadget podcast. So we won't always be able to interact directly with the audience and the chat. And you will hear us kind of like make mistakes and then pause and go back and take a line again, or you'll see, technical things like a countdown that's coming up that Ben will kick off. So just be patient. If we can't get your question immediately in the chat, we will get back to it in segment breaks, which we should have more time for today.
And I'm always watching the chat. I'm going to be interacting with the chat. So it's not like you're just going to be yelling into the void.
Yeah, leave your questions there. Ben will see them and flag them later on. I want to shout out that Marco has been morning drinking. I think so too. There you go. Just coffee. So, all right. That's what he says. Coffee with a dash of vodka.
Chimeng Chung and a couple of other people say, the audio is low. Don't know. Yeah, volume super low, sound too low. Yeah, we're getting...
And I suspect that's mine. Is it just mine, you guys, or is it Ben, or is it like it's overall audio?
Yeah. Can you tell us if it's? Yeah. Can you tell if it's one person or if it's everyone who's speaking? Hey Sam, could you speak a little bit for us?
Yeah. Hopefully I sound okay, but if you don't, please let us know if it's like overall audio levels or just like one person. It's all.
Mark says it's all. So all of us are low. We're working on that. I'm sure Julio with the morning drinking, is on it right now.
Actually, Sam, what are you morning drinking? That looks like apple juice, but it could be barley tea.
I bet it's tea.
No, it's tea. It's oolong. I got a big shipment.
5 Love. I see you said everyone is low with a capital L. I get what you're saying. I see what it is. All right. Anyway, oolong tea.
Yeah, no, Mark, you do not even get the assist. Buddy305 gets the full credit for that goal.
All right, okay, we're hearing that audio levels are fixed. Thanks to Julio for fixing it in real time. Awesome.
Thanks for letting us know too.
All right, so I think we're ready to kick things off. Ben, are you ready to do whatever you need us to do?
Yes. Okay, so longtime viewers know what we're going to do. New viewers, we need to make sure that the audio is all synced on our side for the audio version of the podcast. So we're going to do a clap. I'm going to count down from 3, and Sherlyn, Sam, and I are all going to make a sound at the same time. And so chat, if you want to clap or snap your fingers, is there a snap fingers emoji? I'm not sure. But if you want to make a sound at the same time, that's really cool. I like doing that. It makes us feel like you believe in us. And that's what we all need. So counting down from 3, 2, 1. And some silence. I'll let you know when the silence is over. Okay, it's always just long enough to be awkward, but we're good and we can start the show.
And I can just burp. Okay.
Actually, everyone, Mark said, everyone fart at the same time to sync levels.
Perfect.
I think that would be dangerous.
In the world, maybe. All right, we're going to talk about the OnePlus 10T in a little bit, as well as a bunch of news, all around tech. It's going to be a pretty casual episode. I look forward to talking to y'all more in a little bit. So, all right. Ben, you ready?
Yes.
All right, let me just pull up the notes because this is my first time hosting in a while. Okay, cool. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Deputy Editor Sherlyn Lowe, and joining me this week is guest co-host, Senior Editor Sam Rutherford. Hey, Sam, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Devinder's out on his second round of paternity leave, so it'll be me and random Engadget team members hosting the Engadget podcast this month. It'll be a fun time. This week, we're here to talk about the OnePlus 10T, a phone that launched without its signature alert slider. Sam reviewed the phone for us here at Engadget. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about the other news that happened in tech this week. And they all just seem to be companies being kind of salty at other companies. And we're going to figure out why that is or not. So if you're enjoying the show, as always, please subscribe on your favorite podcast catcher, leave us a review on iTunes, and send us your thoughts at podcast@engadget.com. We also live stream the recording of this podcast every Thursday morning at about 10 a.m. Eastern on the Engadget YouTube channel. We can take your questions live. We can talk to you and have fun in the real. We can talk to you and have fun interaction in the real. Oh, fucking what the fuck? Wait, sorry.
You're trying to recover.
Oh, in my head I was like, I'm doing so well, and then
also
died.
Wait, oh wow, okay, yeah, and your feed was stuck like that. I'm not sure if that was just like,
I'm sure it was just a connection thing.
I don't know, but it was like perfect. So yeah, start again.
All right, I'll just start from the interacting thing. Okay. And we can interact with y'all in real time. So it's usually very fun. Come and join us on the Engadget YouTube channel then. I made it. All right. Dive right into it. Okay. So this week, Sam, your review of the OnePlus 10T went live, I think, on August 3rd? That was the day OnePlus announced it as well. Mm-hmm. Tell me about this phone. I haven't touched it at all, even though I was at an event with the phone there. I just refused to touch it. What's this phone about?
I like how you go to events and you're like, nah, I don't got time for this.
I stay away from the product experience area.
Yeah. So anyways, the OnePlus 10T, this is the follow-up sort of to the OnePlus 10 Pro, which came out earlier this year. And it's more of like, OnePlus's, it's got a mid-range price. It starts at $649 or $749 if you want the 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gig storage option. But it's kind of interesting because it's actually faster than the OnePlus 10 Pro because it has a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chip, and it has OnePlus's new 150 watt Super VOOC charging system, which is something they had promised earlier this year, and they finally delivered. And it's really, really fast. It's like it goes from 1% battery to 60 in 10 minutes, which is like kind of crazy. Of course, the caveat to that is that it only works with that one single phone, and you need to have OnePlus's included brick. Hey, you get a brick, that's nice. So you have to use OnePlus's included brick and that cable. And then even if you're charging like a laptop that could theoretically use like 100 watts of power, that doesn't work either because USB PD charging is capped at 45 watts. So, we have this phone and it's super fast. The charging is super fast. Battery life is great. Mm-hmm. And then you look at it and it's like, well, there's they made a lot of sacrifices to get that speed. So, the title of the review is Speed Above all else. And it's like, they took the alert slider off of the phone, which is something that has been on pretty much every OnePlus phone since the OnePlus 2, which came out in 2015. So that's like a really weird departure. And then you don't get wireless charging. They've taken a back step on water resistance. It's IP54, which is like, good for a splash or two. And that's like, the OnePlus 9 last year it had IP68 water resistance. It was official for like the T-Mobile carrier versions, but it was kind of unofficially IP68 for just like the unlocked versions. So, it's really weird to see like, oh, we're going to go really hard on speed, but then kind of pull back on like well-rounded features. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just, it seems like a really weird position for them.
Yeah. Do you think so? As I'm hearing all of these like sacrifices they made in exchange for like speed, and specifically, it sounds like wireless charging speed, right? So they took away wireless charging, and then they dropped the IP rating. I mean, has that got to do with the charging speeds? Like, is it like a safety issue? Is it like a battery might explode issue?
Yeah, they said that the reason why the alert slider is not on the phone is because there's more antennas inside the phone, so you get like better, a Wi-Fi, Bluetooth connectivity. And then there's a large battery, and the charging system itself takes up more space. So they couldn't find room for the alert slider, which seems weird because the slider is really just like a switch on the side of the phone. But, I haven't ripped open the phone to really see how much, excess room is in there. But it's like, and OnePlus has already said the alert slider will come back on future devices. So it's really weird. You have like, almost like 9 years of phones with a slider. You have this one that doesn't have it, and then they're going to go back to it again. It's like, and I think to me, this is kind of really like a big sign that OnePlus is really in a state of transition from like the old OnePlus. And I wrote a story about this earlier this year, and I'm kind of getting validated in a little way. Just like, with OnePlus's recent actions, is that, they're in this transition where it was, you used to be OnePlus, and they worked together with Oppo, but now they are fully one company. And so you're seeing that like, they're transitioning over to Oxygen OS, the new version, which is based on Oppo's Color OS, instead of being solely developed by OnePlus itself. And so there's like a lot of that like corporate synergy going on, which I guess is like good on the business side because it helps keep costs down and stuff like that. But it's also like, a really interesting time of change for people who are used to, the OnePlus phones of old, because you can see that like the direction of that company and the devices is really starting to change.
I want to get back to that Color OS thing in a little bit, because I'm curious how you felt about the software in general. And I completely forgot about that like merger with Oppo, or like, not, I don't know if merger is the right word, but like, joining back with Oppo. But I also wanted to say the fact that the alert slider, that OnePlus has said that that's coming back in the future iterations, was that something they said to you already like before the launch, or was it something?
Yeah, they've provided an official statement saying why it's not on the OnePlus 10T. Like because like basically there wasn't enough space, and then they also tried to get out in front of any potential, I guess, bad press, bad press or whatever, saying that, hey, it's not going away forever. We are planning on bringing it back. We're not axing it for good, like like getting rid of the headphone jack, like or something like that.
Because I saw like on Twitter, people from the event itself were reporting from it, and they were saying that like OnePlus said, oh yeah, we heard y'all, we always rely on our fans to keep us real and grounded. And I thought it was maybe a response to fan feedback that they were like, oh no. But also I want to bring up a point, which is that how important is this alert slider? First of all, like, why are people up in arms about it going away? What does it like? It just, I know what it does.
Yeah.
Can you spell it out for our?
I mean, so that's a fair point. I mean, like, and like, so someone in one of the comments on the reviews made a fair point, saying that like the alert slider was basically like stealing a feature from the iPhone back in the day, when it has, because all it is a switch on the side of the phone that you can either silence your phone or turn on the volume with a physical switch, instead of like having to like mess around with the on-screen like volume menu. And so it is a pretty simple thing, but I think for me and a lot of other people, it's like that's one of the things that had become part of OnePlus's identity. And like for me, like, and maybe you too, it's like when I'm reviewing the device, you can look at the specs and you can look at the design and all that stuff too, but I think there's also like a tiny piece where you want to see some sort of like personality. You want to see some sort of emotion from the device. And that was one of the few things, like, there aren't any other really Android phones that have a mute slider. Exactly. So it's like, if you are, if you're an Android person and you want a phone with like a dedicated physical mute switch, OnePlus was one of your few choices.
Yeah, I enjoy the feature on the iPhone that I use. I mean, for people who don't already know, based on listening to this podcast for a bit, I main both an iPhone and a Pixel, right? And my Pixel is just always on silent because it pisses me off when I get a shit ton of notifications and it's just noisy all day. So I leave it on silent. And with my iPhone, at the very least, like when I know that I'm, on the lookout for something, I can switch that on. And then when I, want to focus on my work, I can just turn it off. It's very easy to do that. So I do appreciate having the slider there. Yes, it's not like a make or break feature, but
yeah, it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the nicer things that set OnePlus out or apart from everyone else. We talked about Color OS / Oxygen OS and becoming more similar. I want to hear what you thought about that before we move on to like other parts of the phone, like the camera.
Yeah, for sure. So this year, OnePlus has kind of been transitioning to like the new version of Oxygen OS, which is based on Color OS. And so that started with the OnePlus 10 Pro. I didn't review that one. But it's also continuing on the OnePlus 10T, and it's weird because it's like it kind of looks like Oxygen OS and it kind of feels like Oxygen OS, and then you'll do something and you'll just be like, oh, that doesn't respond like the way I thought it would. Like even small stuff, it's like it really feels like they need to work on some of the polish of Oxygen OS, because like, for example, I was trying to transfer photos from the phone to my PC to like look at it on a big monitor, and I just plugged it in USB and I just didn't get a pop-up saying, that traditional Android pop-up is like, hey, do you want to switch to file transfer mode instead of just like pure charging. And I couldn't do that at all. I had to go into the developer options and manually force it to go into file transfer mode. And that's not something that people know how to do, because you have to go in the settings, tap like about the system like 7 times, and then you have to go into the actual developer settings menu. And then other things, like there's a new OnePlus shelf if you swipe down from the very right side on the phone, and it's kind of like the iPhone's control panel, but it also like holds a bunch of widgets and stuff. And it's just like, a lot of times I would swipe down just to open my notifications, and the shelf would pop. It's like, no, that's not what I want. And then, even just like the sound effects and like some of the like UI design and even like the wallpaper, like for I don't know if a lot of people knew this, those wallpapers that would come on the OnePlus phone, they were OnePlus like licensed out. I think they hired an artist in Europe somewhere, and he would custom make those wallpapers for OnePlus. And then the new wallpaper kind of just looks a little generic, and I don't think it's the same person doing it anymore either. Yeah. So you have like all these little things. It's like kind of signals to you that like, there's some shifting going on, and for better or worse, but it is a little jarring for one longtime OnePlus users.
I was going to say, because like one of the nice things about OnePlus was always that this was even back in the day when Samsung had like heavy touch whiz stuff, right? Like the thing about OnePlus was that their version of Android was always pretty clean. It was fairly like close to stock, except for the useful little shortcuts that they had. Is Color OS / the current Oxygen OS, does it feel like it just has too much different from stock Android?
I think you're starting to see a little of that like feature creep, feature bloat, where like, I think some people might find some of these features useful, but like you said, if you like that really clean, stripped down minimalist, approach to Android, it seems like OnePlus is starting to get away from that a little bit. And it's hard to say if that will continue a lot. I know in their presentation, like people were kind of like memeing on them because they spent like 10 minutes talking about the different shades of blue and orange and stuff, and like the meaning of water and how that applies to fluidity for like Oxygen OS 13, which is, based on Android 13, and it's going to come later this year, first on the OnePlus 10 Pro, and then they're going to, move it over to some of the other devices like the 10T. But it's just like, oh, okay, we get it. Like you want to like, beef up your version of Android, but I'm not sure that's what everybody wants, especially once again, those longtime OnePlus users.
Yeah. I want to take a moment here to just, do a PSA for phone makers and companies. Hey, if you had to spend more than 5 minutes talking about colors during your presentation, or if you had to issue a full like press release talking about Bora Purple and how it embodies mystery and unfolds your world, I don't know what else you want to put in there. Or if you're like Huawei and had to tell me all about how this year's Pantone colors.
I remember that. I remember that. It was like, this was like 4 or 5 years ago. Huawei was like, the Pantone color of the year is some like light green. And then the year before that, it was coral. And it's like, I'm sure there's like a graphic designer out there who's like getting really excited about this, but I think people are like, oh, that's a cool color, and then they're gonna move on, or they're like, oh, I don't like it, and then they're gonna move on.
Like, I don't mind talking about colors, but it doesn't justify like a more than 5-minute conversation. Like Huawei went on for a whole hour.
And probably not during like a big keynote and you're spending 5-10 plus minutes on it. It's like, it just, it messes up the flow. People kind of drop off after a while. I don't know.
But if you're listening or watching this podcast, please send me a long 1,000-word essay about your favorite color and why it's your favorite color. I love it. Moving on, the OnePlus 10T. The last thing I am curious about, before I ask you about what your favorite things were, is the cameras. I mean, one of my biggest like things I judge a phone on are its cameras. So how did the 10T do?
Surprisingly good. So, and one other departure from the 10 Pro is that on the 10T. OnePlus made a big deal about, we're getting Hasselblad to come in and like help us improve our photography, which that's what they did for the 10 Pro. But on the 10T, Hasselblad is not involved in any way. There's no like any of those like special like color accuracy features or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So you just get a 50 megapixel main camera, an ultra wide, and a macro camera instead of a telephoto, which I'm really not happy about. It's a 2 megapixel macro camera. And so the resolution is really low. The focus is like kind of, this kind of is an issue with a lot of macro cameras where like the focus is like really hard to nail because autofocus on macro cameras is just really hard to do. And when you're doing like a mid-range device, a lot of times companies kind of cut corners on that stuff. And it seems like that's kind of what they did on the 10T. So I've personally found that the macro camera isn't really all that useful because you can get better results just using the main camera and then cropping in if you need to get closer. That said, like, general, like, bright light stuff, the main camera was great. It's not quite as good as a Pixel. And, I compared it to the Pixel 6a, which is actually a slightly cheaper phone. And I found that the Pixel 6a did better pretty much across the board, but the 10T wasn't that far behind. Obviously there's some big differences. Low light photography was not quite as good as the Pixel, but we kind of know that Google's night sight is, one of the best in the business.
Yeah. We talk about the price a little bit, right? Like $649 for the 10T versus say like, what was it, $449 for the Pixel 6a? Mm-hmm. What's your main like takeaway in terms of that? Like, what do you get for the money with the 10T, and is it worth it?
Yeah. And so this really comes back to like the whole idea behind the phone. It's like, it really seems like OnePlus wanted to make a phone as fast as they could. And in a lot of ways, the 10T really is the fastest Android phone for the money at that price range, because you're getting that Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chip, super fast charging. You even get like a new 120 hertz display with an adaptive refresh rate. So it can go from 120 hertz to 90 hertz to 60 hertz, depending on the content. And that's really, really nice. And so if you're one of those like, phone nerds who really loves like, I need the best performance, I need the fastest charging, there is something to the 10T's kind of formula. But at the same time, it's like, to me, it's not really as well-rounded of a phone as compared to something like even the Pixel 6a, or especially the standard Pixel 6, which does have wireless charging and all that stuff. And then, what makes it even more complicated is that at the same time they released the 10T, they also did a permanent price reduction on the OnePlus 10 Pro. So it's going from $899 now to $799. And so it's like, man, you're kind of splitting hairs at a certain point. Yeah, it's $150 extra. But you are, the base 10T only has 8 gigs of RAM. And so, if you're going to spend a little bit more for that, 16 gigs of RAM 10T, suddenly you're like, is it worth it to spend just a little bit more to just get the 10 Pro, and you get way better cameras, you get a telephoto, wireless charging, all of that. And so that's where it gets really tricky. And, like I said before, it doesn't really have quite the same level of the mass appeal as some of the other like real flagship phones like the 10 Pro, or even, stuff like the S22 and, the iPhone 13.
I I find OnePlus's strategy confusing, right? I think that and you've brought that up. I think that the price reduction in general is a good thing, right? It's nice to that they're able to, push over cost savings over to consumers. But yeah, you do get just so much more with the 10 Pro. Also, the features that we said were gone from the 10T, right? Like wireless charging, the alert slider, a lower IP rating. We're expecting them to come back on whenever the 10T Pro does get launched. So it feels like they were this is the OnePlus fan that was looking at the 10T. I have no idea if they're gonna even buy this, because you're really sandwiched in a really interesting place. I do want to point out that on the live stream of our recording of this podcast, one of our viewers did make a very, very funny comment. Buddy 305 Love said, this phone should have been named the OnePlus 10Y, as in, why is it even being released?
Yeah.
Right.
And there's just some other just kind of weird choices. I haven't talked about the back of the phone yet, which, there's two colors. There's the Jade one, which has it's Gorilla Glass 5 in the back, and it's just, normal phone construction. But on the Moonstone Black unit, which is the one I reviewed, they did this new textured back that kind of sparkles in the sunlight. But at the same time, the texture also covers up that glass, so it feels more plasticky. And in the review I said it kind of feels like it came out of a consumer level cheaper 3D printer, and that's just kind of just a weird choice, because it's not the old school sandstone sandpaper feel of the original OnePluses, which some people still really love. And it's also not any of the more recent stuff, or even the concept stuff, the OnePlus Concept 1, which had a leather back, which I thought was kind of cool. And so it's just, I think OnePlus is trying to figure out who they want to be as they attempt to become a real global player on the smartphone field. And then one other kind of weird wrinkle is that currently OnePlus has not told us carrier compatibility for the phone, at least in the US. And so the phone doesn't come out in the US until late September. There are going to be some pre-sales, in August for people who really want to get early access purchases to the phone. But it's just after years of working with T-Mobile, it's they had, there was a lot of people on T-Mobile who was that's how they got exposed to OnePlus. And then to kind of go back and have this ambiguity on carrier support, and if it will even be available in carrier stores, or is going to be an unlocked only thing. It's just, it's a weird kind of business move, I think.
I mean, one of the things I saw on Twitter around this coverage is the people in the UK were oh my gosh, OnePlus changed the price at the last minute. They dropped it, to, I forget the UK price. Did anything like that happen to you on the US side for pricing?
No, it was pretty consistent all along. It's starts at $649, $749 for the higher spec version. So at least they, I think they very clearly had a price in mind, because they probably didn't want to cannibalize sales of the 10 Pro too much. So they're we have to put at least $150 gap between the 10T and the 10 Pro.
Okay, gotcha. Because I was if they're changing the price last minute, there's there's something else up there. So
yeah, no, nothing really in that nature.
Anything else you want to make sure people know about the OnePlus 10T?
Yes, one small thing is that because the Super VOOC charging brick, it doesn't fully support 110 volt or 120 volt outlets, which is the standard outlet for the US. So you actually don't get full 150 watt charging. It's 125 watt charging in the US. And so, the speeds that I got, even from the 125 watt, not 150, are still super fast. However, if you're in Europe or India, you will get that full 150 watt charging. And also, even though it says 160 watt on the brick itself, that's not actually the case. It's 150 watt charging.
Okay, so
it's just their brick. I don't know if it's a marketing thing or just some weird specificity thing, but as far as I know, it's 150 watts is the max charging speed. And maybe that'll change with future phones, they can, get a little bit more juice out of it. But as of right now, it's 150 watts max on the 10T in Europe and India, and then 125 watts in the US.
Well, listening to that charging speed scares me a little bit, but I also know that a lot of people in our YouTube live chat, or a couple of people at least, were like, I already ordered mine. I'm very excited for this. So if you're, tell us how you feel about the OnePlus 10T. If you're a hardcore fan, or if you're just watching ambivalently from the sidelines, send us your thoughts at podcast@engadget.com.
Yeah. Oh, I also want to say, if you have ordered it, hit me up in like 6 months, because one of the big things is like, people were really worried about how that charging speed will affect the battery. And OnePlus said that like they installed a bunch of temperature sensors to make sure the phone doesn't overheat, but it also has this like healing battery technology, so that even after 1,600 charging cycles, the battery should at least have 80% battery health. Obviously that's not something I can test in a week and a half. There's only so many times I can charge a phone, in that time. So, hey, anyone who buys that phone, hit us up after a year or so and let us know how your battery health is doing. I'll be very curious to see, what that degradation actually is in the real world.
Yeah. All right, let's break here.
Cool.
Ben, do you think you'd be able to cut what Sam just said before my email shout out?
I think so.
Yeah, so let's do that, because I think that transitions well. I think we have some time for Q&A, because I saw a lot of comments during this time.
Yes.
I'll let you catch up or make your notes while I scroll up.
Yep. I see Antonio Luz is asking how's gaming on it. Gaming's good. I mean, when you have that much performance, everything's going to be speedy. Like, the phone is definitely fast. There's not a lot of stuttering. It's very smooth. So it's nice to see that. But, once again, like compared to a regular Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 Gen 1 chip, it's really hard to tell just side by side how much faster that phone is. And it's like, it says, I think there's 10% faster graphics. And it's like, even the normal Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, it's pretty fast. And I haven't really noticed any issues with that, like, playing like Genshin Impact or anything like that. And so it really takes like a special game to like really, really tax the phone. And I just really haven't found that on either the Snapdragon 8 or 8 Plus Gen 1 chips.
I scrolled all the way back up to Aaron Analog saying best dead air / Ben corrected and said room tone on the web. And I just want to say, yes, true. And also thanks to Julio, our producer, who's the one who does that. He deserves an Emmy, really, for his comedic timing. But yeah. And then just remembering my little screw up from earlier with the F-bombs. I guess I apologize. I don't really, fuck everything.
Well, yeah, but Mark did say that you swore so hard that your video glitched.
I saw that. Ever swore so hard.
Dude named Charlie is saying he really needs a compact phone. That makes me so sad, because like I feel like the fan base, or just like the customer base for compact Android phones has like disappeared, and it's small enough that like a lot of the smartphone makers will just ignore that aspect of the market. And even Apple, I think, there's been rumors that the iPhone mini is just going to go away very shortly, maybe as soon as this year. I don't know if that's going to happen. This is just like very like, rumor milly like info, but it's just like, it's sad. And then you have like, recently, our colleague Richard Lai did a hands-on with the Zenfone 9, which is a 5.9 inch screen. It's like, that's definitely more compact, but Asus never really pushes their devices hard in the US. And I'm not entirely sure why, because I think there's room for more competition. Obviously you would take some work to get the certifications and like the FCC clearance and all that. And that's, that scares a lot of people, a lot of foreign phone makers off from like doing business in the US. It's the same reason. It's one of the reasons why Xiaomi has never really officially sold phones in the US. And so it's just kind of disheartening. And then if you look over at Sony, like they had compact versions of their phones for years, and then those have sort of gone away a little bit. And then also like Sony is another company who doesn't really go after the US market.
I mean, they sort of try, right? But they're like so expensive. Sony.
Yeah, I mean, their last couple phones have just been like $1,000, and there was that Xperia Pro that was like $1,500 or $2,000, and that was like, that phone was actually meant for like
vlogging,
for like 10 people in the entire country. It's basically built for, the people on the sidelines, the cameramen on the sidelines at NFL games. This is kind of like a maybe like weird inside baseball thing, but a lot of those guys shoot Sony cameras. And if you ever watch a football game, and I think they started doing in baseball games more recently too, you'll notice every once in a while you'll get like a on-screen footage that has a really, really shallow depth of field, so it looks like almost like a movie shot. Those people are using Sony cameras, and they're live streaming their footage from their camera to like the broadcast van that's like next to the stadium. And so it was designed, this Xperia Pro was designed so that people would have a 5G device that could tether to their camera and send footage in real time. And so it's like one of the most niche phones ever, but it's really cool. But no one's really ever going to buy one.
Did you just give us inside baseball about baseball?
Yes,
baseball actually. And football. Yeah.
And football
and probably basketball too.
I've been waiting to use the inside baseball in actual relation to baseball for a long time.
Well, you almost did it. Ben, you were about to say something.
Probably. I was just saying that it was probably basketball too.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
They use that for.
Yeah, they started with the NFL, and they've kind of been, the Sony shooters have kind of been like people like they've gotten really good feedback from it, and so they're kind of expanding it to the other sports.
My favorite thing is when these very large sportsmen will fall into like the camera pit and like knock over these guys who are wearing at least $20,000 worth of gear. And you just cross your fingers and they hope they have really good insurance on all that stuff.
Yeah.
Or aren't using their own equipment.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if Jonathan Anderson is still around. Looks like they might have left midway through, which is fine. But Jonathan Anderson did say which people on Android are switching to the OnePlus 10T. They don't see many Apple device users switching, but, Jonathan Anderson is curious who in Android tries out other Android competitors, if that makes sense. Like if you're a Samsung user, you just stick to Samsung. If you're a Pixel user, you just stick to Pixel. I'm so removed from the real world, honestly. I feel like I couldn't give you an answer. I know that my mom's been switching from Samsung to Samsung to Samsung, but she does switch kind of like back and forth sometimes. She looks at Xiaomi, she like thinks about it and asks me, and I'm just like, stick to Samsung.
I think, it depends a lot on where you live, but I think with like the exit of LG, Huawei kind of like diminishing in like, importance. There are some people who have some older phones, like from companies who aren't really in the game anymore. And like, I think OnePlus and Motorola is also doing this quite a bit. Like they're trying to like scoop up some of those users who are like now looking for a new phone. And then suddenly the people who made their old phone don't make phones anymore. It's like, oh, well, now we got to figure out something new. And, I think that's one strategy.
So
James
I have a
fire said yo. So go ahead, yo. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I had a bunch of things
yes
banked on my side. So we have Pavan Kumar, who said that they pre-ordered a OnePlus 10T today after 4 years of using a OnePlus 6. Congratulations. I know that like that new phone feel is really great. So can't wait for you to get it. Also, kind of curious when it's actually going to be in your hands, because I know that there are differences in when different devices are available in like the US versus like places like India. So please send us an email at podcast@Engadget when you have it and telling us like how long you waited, because I think that would be interesting to see. Yeah,
and I believe in Europe, the 10T goes on sale at the end of August instead of at the end of September for US. So that is one of the big differences in like market availability.
Then we have Rob Langley, who said, the slider discussion. I'd miss it, but it wouldn't be a deal breaker. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's kind of where I'm at too. Is like I miss it, and I wish they hadn't gotten rid of it. But it's not necessarily a deal breaker. It's just kind of sad.
If you're thinking about use cases, like I like the ability to use my notification slider, the version that's on an iPhone. If I'm in a movie theater or something, just quickly flip it off and not even have to look at the phone, especially if I got into the movie a little bit late and the lights are already down.
Yeah, there's always
on the other hand.
Oh, go ahead.
When is the last time that I've been in a movie theater? Actually, the last it was not before the pandemic. The last time I saw a movie in an actual movie theater was Everything Everywhere All at Once, because it needed to be that overwhelming. But I don't know if I'm going to be going to movies nearly that often, or as often as I used to. So use cases change around you too.
Definitely. I am seeing some discussion around haptics on iPhone keyboard. I remember having haptics on an iPhone keyboard. So it's bugging me that y'all think that see sound and haptics.
Well, this is a live troubleshooting, spec verification.
Yeah. Keyboard clicks, yes, that is turned on. So what do I have to? So, but then
but keyboard clicks are a sound; they're not a haptic.
Right.
Yeah, and it's also been somewhat muddy over the years because remember when iPhones had Force Touch, and then that kind of went away.
Yeah.
So and it's actually interesting because like 3 or 4 years ago, people used to really bag on OnePlus for having really weak haptics. And then I think it was with the either OnePlus 8 or OnePlus 9, they switched to like a much more powerful haptics motor. And like the people who really, really care about haptics were like overjoyed. And it's weird because like I think most people don't really care as much about haptics. They like to have the option of turning vibration on, but they're not like really like deep diving. It's like, oh, the vibration is too weak or too strong, or I don't like the pitch or the vibration of the actual like motor. So I don't know. Haptics is one of those like really personal things that like you like it the way you like it, and sometimes that might be enough for you to switch a phone. But yeah.
So weird. I could swear I've used to feel like haptic on the iPhone keyboard, and I just don't feel it right now. How did it just like go away and I never realized? Anyway, go on. I'm sorry, Ben, I interrupted your questions.
So then we have like Betty 305 Love saying that the alert slider is very convenient. Yes, agree. Dude named Charlie said no space for the slider. It's such a big phone, I don't buy it. Which gets us back to what we were saying before. Dude named Charlie was talking about how they needed a compact Android phone miles away. Also said that there should be a 10 Plus mini. Sam was saying something about how there just aren't enough like small phone fans, but is that actually true? If you were to do some like actual market research with people, just asking them, are you happy with the size of your phone? How many people are going to be like, yes, I love this because like I'm always sitting on like mass transit, like watching TV or movies. There's a whole section of the country, especially in the US, that doesn't really sit on mass transit watching movies. They don't need the extra screen real estate. They might actually appreciate something that fits in their pocket, but you're not getting the sense that there are small phone fans because most people are just like I don't like it, but I'll deal with it because these dang phones have gotten so big.
Yeah, a lot of the companies are pretty like secretive with their sales data, but I think the one thing that you can kind of look at is just the sales of the iPhone 13 mini compared to the full size or the Plus models. And I think it just like the mini just lags behind pretty significantly compared to the regular and the Plus models. And I think that's one of the reasons why Apple was rumored to be potentially ditching the mini form factor entirely. That remains to be seen, but
But then there's the other question of, okay, what is like small? Because we've got like the iPhone mini that is like at this point a very cute phone. It feels really small. I think it's about the footprint of an iPhone 5 or something. And I had the footprint of an iPhone 5 until 2020 or so. I had the first SE. But then I went up to the iPhone SE2, which, can somebody remind me what the footprint of that is? Is it the same like case or chassis
the same as the current one? It's the same as the 2022, like the one that I just reviewed.
Is it? I thought,
yeah,
because it still has a
I can go grab it.
Well, yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying that it still has a home button. So
yes, yeah,
okay.
They both do. Yeah.
I mean, I think
4.7-inch screen. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think what you're getting at is that,
and that's not so big. That's not as big as some of these like huge Android phones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually like a little bit of the confusion is that it's not really true for the iPhone SE because it has that home button which takes up a lot of space, but the shrinking bezels on modern phones means that you're getting actually a lot more screen, even though the phones themselves aren't necessarily that much bigger. But because the screen takes up more room on the front of the phone, it can feel a little bit unwieldy, for certain people. And so I think that is one of the frustrations. So like, even though the phone actually isn't that much bigger, the display is relatively larger, and that can be annoying for some people.
Like if you think about the home button on the iPhone SE, it's below the screen. So like underneath, like inside the casing, there's nothing. There's like room there for the touch sensor to live, right? It's a capacitive sensor too. So it's a very small sensor. It's not like a physically depressible sensor, which then takes up another like, I don't know, quarter of an inch of depth, right? So it's just like a lot of things. I get it. I get why there's like difficulty engineering stuff like that, but I'm also like a little dubious about the reasoning here. So. Sorry, I wanted to shout out that Mark Dell asked about the Astro Slide 5G transformer, and Mark says, have people even heard of it? I heard of it. I don't even remember what it is now because there's just so many phones. Sam, do you know what that phone is?
Yeah, it's kind of like an old school. You remember the old, like really old school Droid Envies that had the flip out screen? It was like, and there was a physical keyboard, so it was like, it would flip open like a fold, but then you would have one screen on top, and then you'd have a keyboard down below, a physical keyboard down below.
Right, but I know the sort of phone you're talking about. Go on.
Yeah, and so I think people that is like the true like niche device. I think the amount of people who still like in 2022 want a physical keyboard on a phone, I don't think there's that many of them. I mean, that said, I think it's nice that Astro is like trying to keep that flame going. But and I think the most recent one came out earlier this year. We didn't have a chance to check it out. I think it's interesting, but I haven't had an opportunity yet to play around with it. If I do, maybe we'll get a story up and we can talk about it some more.
I have family members who are like still on the BlackBerry Key 2. They keep asking me like, do you have Phantom Key 2s lying around? Like, can I get one? Because they're like, they want the keyboard. So I get it. People are talking about compact phones. I see, because I want to make sure we move on and not like run out of time.
Yes, yeah. So let's get to other news. All the salt in the other news.
Yes, salty. Speaking of salt, a very not salty comment, thanks to Ethan L. Nguyen, who's like, hi, everybody, this podcast is amazing. That's the way to get me to shout out your comment, is to say nice things about us. All right, and hi to Jaime Valos and so on. Okay, time for other news. And Ben, let me know when we're good.
Yes, we're good. Maybe you didn't see me with the.
Oh no, I was looking at the doc. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. All right. So in other news this week, as I mentioned, it's been kind of a salty, shady week in terms of tech. But let's start it off with a more straightforward piece of news. Okay, Logitech and Tencent announced that they are making a cloud gaming handheld. Is this kind of like the Steam Deck, Sam? What's this about?
Not quite like the Steam Deck, because they're calling out that they're going for cloud gaming is a kind of departure, because obviously Steam Deck runs Steam OS, so you can play games locally on the device. That said, the Steam Deck is also a good cloud gaming device because you can use like the Steam in-home streaming to like stream from your PC, and then you can actually it's not fully supported, but you can play like Xbox Game Cloud on there as well. Okay. But this is an interesting thing because the move to people, I think people have been waiting to see is cloud gaming really going to take off? I think Xbox has been the most successful because they're able to package it with Game Pass, and then you can have that bundle where you can play a whole bunch of games, and then if you want to do the cloud thing, you can. But, there's been a handful of companies who have been rumored or announced to be working on a cloud gaming handset. And so there aren't a lot of details about this Tencent Logitech thing yet. But, Qualcomm was rumored to be making a cloud gaming handset of some sort. And they announced like a dedicated handheld gaming console chip platform to kind of power these devices. And then there was a leak a while back, like a year and a half ago, where Lenovo was rumored to be making a portable handheld console thing. Yeah. I don't think it was entirely clear if it was purely cloud gaming or if it had some local gaming capability.
Right.
But it's like, people have been dancing around this cloud gaming thing for a while. So to see like Logitech and Tencent be like, okay, here we're planting a flag, we're going to make this, we don't know when it's going to be available yet, but, I think that's interesting. And then, I think people are still kind of unsure about cloud gaming, but if you look at like the market itself, everything has gone to cloud services. Everyone uses, either Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. And then, for video, it's like, obviously there's like Netflix, Disney Plus, the whole gamut.
Yep.
And so like cloud gaming seems like that kind of last frontier, but it's still relatively new. And I think people aren't entirely sure what to make of it. And, even for people who like do cloud gaming on their phone, to me, that's not my ideal way of playing because I want that physical control. And so you can get an adapter or a controller add-on for your phone. But I think some people would really just like having like a dedicated gaming device, even if it is gaming from the cloud.
I feel like we're in that stage where, with streaming services a while ago, where it was like, oh, when you're on the go, it used to be like they had to really push and be like, oh, you can stream Hulu on the, bus back home or something. And it used to be just kind of impossible. You would have to wait and stop for the buffering and stuff like that. But we're now we're now able to just stream video literally everywhere we go,
right?
Like from YouTube. There's no need to wait for buffering speeds anymore. So I feel like maybe we're at that point where we're kind of also waiting because games are also a lot more data intensive and just bigger file transfers. And lag is so much more of an issue when you're playing games than it is like watching a show. So you're right. I think that the state of cloud gaming right now seems like it's not in its infancy, but it's kind of facing like maybe entering growing pains. I don't know.
Growing pains. And I think they're still trying to figure out like, what are the like really advantages to cloud gaming compared to, your standard console gaming or PC gaming or whatever. And it's not quite as like a, cut and dry, like this thing is way better at this thing. But we'll see.
And also when you were talking about the Lenovo handheld and the Qualcomm platform thing, I was just thinking, is it possible that Logitech and Tencent are going to tap this Qualcomm platform for their device? Like, I feel like Qualcomm tends to partner up with people when they make things.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they partner with Qualcomm to find a chip maker because, Logitech doesn't make chips. Tencent doesn't really make chips. And so they're going to have to need to find some partner. And I don't know if like, I'd be very surprised if they go the x86 route and try to do like an Intel or an AMD processor.
Right.
That's definitely an option. But that, once you cross over to the x86, you're kind of, gearing yourself more towards like traditional PC gaming. And so I think it makes more sense for them to do, an ARM-based chip for a handheld cloud gaming console.
I agree with you, but it seems like they have confirmed. It looks like they're working with NVIDIA GeForce Now on the device, and I don't know how compatible that is with ARM.
There's GeForce Now apps. I think that's less of an issue. Xbox has their dedicated Android app. And so I don't think that would be a real barrier in terms of like platform versus chip compatibility.
Gotcha. And I also want to be clear about like when Qualcomm made that like handheld thing. For me, at any time Qualcomm makes a device, it's always like a reference design. It's never like an actual thing they make themselves. So I don't. And
earlier this year, Qualcomm partnered with Razer to make that kind of like concept. Not it's a concept. It's kind of like a dev kit, so that they could explore more on like, oh, how do we need to change the form factor? How do we need to change the performance profile? Things of that nature. And so there's definitely a number of companies kind of working on something in this space.
Yeah, because remember Alienware also showed off like a prototype handheld thing, like what, a couple CESs ago or something like that. So, or you're right. We're like picking up steam in the industry, but I'm just not sure we're all ready yet. But for people who are fans or excited for cloud gaming, it sounds like stuff's coming. Sam, hey, do you find it kind of weird that like at some point this week, Uber receipts were just like they're just not working on Microsoft's Outlook?
This is just one of those stories that like doesn't make sense. It's like, why would this ever be an issue? And so I'm just kind of like mind boggled in that respect.
Yeah. So what was happening is that a report from Bleeping Computer is that Microsoft has identified a formatting bug that would freeze Outlook whenever you open some messages with complex tables, and these include Uber receipts. That glitch will also crash Word, not just Outlook. And it's a recent standard release introduced this bug, I think, to the system. There's apparently a fix that will already reach beta users shortly, and it will reach everyone August 9th through a patch. But yeah, if you're opening up an Uber receipt in Outlook or Word, goodbye the rest of your workday. I mean, not the rest of your workday, but if you needed a toilet break, open an Uber receipt, just like do your expenses for a second. It's fun, but apparently no.
And I think that the sad part about it is like for people who are using like Uber for work, a lot of times like your company has like you either go with like G Suite or like Outlook, and so you might be forced to use Outlook for your work emails, and then it's like, oh, I have to file my expenses, and then suddenly, why is everything breaking? And then like. It's just like such a weird error. It's like, all right, fine.
From now until August 9th, you cannot file your Uber expenses if your company uses Outlook. So, hey, take that excuse and run with it. I mean, that was just like a funny bug, but we also saw this week Spotify say they're bringing up, or they're about to launch a new feature for premium users, and it is a play button. Do you use Spotify, Sam?
No, I'm not a big Spotify user.
Okay. Let me explain this to you.
Please, because this is like, wait, how is this feature hasn't been in there forever?
Yeah, I was also confused because I am a Spotify premium user. I was like, what are you talking about play button? And then I realized that I forgot, like in some playlists, and I noticed this in my own experience, is that like playlists that I make and I've created and compiled myself, you have a play button that defaults to shuffle. So like when you hit that play button, it will play all the tracks in that playlist, but in shuffle order. And then in some other playlists, typically those not created by me, very often created by Spotify themselves, it's just a standard play button at the top of the playlist. So when you hit play, it plays in order. But it's not like, so in the playlist where the play button was a shuffle by default, it's not like you could not play the tracks in order, but you
you just didn't have the control of like choosing between standard play and shuffle.
Right. At least not from that one obvious shortcut. You had to like just tap the first song on the list and then it would play in order that way. Right. I love the shuffle play button. I always only play the shuffle play button, but it's funny that like Spotify, I guess, was like, oh, maybe we should not make that like a forced feature.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I mean, I also just enjoy that our team has been having fun with the like headlines this week, because this was
also, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw Adele is like somehow mixed up in all of this too.
Yeah. So a lot of artists, when they release new albums, and like Beyonce just dropped a whole new album, right? And the trend nowadays is that the album, the individual tracks on each album just kind of blends seamlessly into the next, right? So you have the ending of one song, and Adele also probably crafted her album, her discography, just to go and tell a story, right? And so I think Adele was very vocal about the shuffle play button a while ago. So this was probably part of what triggered Spotify's shift here. I don't think any users were necessarily clamoring.
And I can respect that approach, because as an artist, like, if you have created an album that's meant to be listened from beginning to end,
right?
It's like kind of that concept album where you're telling a story or you're telling like a saga. You really want people to experience it the way, it was intended. At the same time, it's just like, was it really that hard to just have two options? Like, I guess that's the kind of thing that I don't get, but okay, sure.
And I'm looking at the new design for the Spotify play button. So you've got the typical green play button at the top of the playlist at the top right now. And usually if it's the shuffle play button, it has the play button and the shuffle symbol at the bottom of the play button, sort of overlaid on top of it. Now the new design will have two options at the top, the green play button, and then it's sort of gray with no circle around it, shuffle icon next to the play button. So you have two options from now on. Which
so like every other music player in existence.
Yeah. So you don't have to go toggle shuffle on and off if you want to play them in shuffle order either. And you're playing like a different, playlist that doesn't offer that option. So this was an artist push thing, I think, but it functionally just makes a lot more sense. And it's kind of a duh, Spotify? Like, what's up, man? Like, yeah. So anywho, just one of many, many, many things we're going to cover this week that don't seem to really make sense. But we were talking about how Spotify's feature was maybe driven by artists. But I hear Sony is doing something because its users are being crap. What's happening, Sam?
So Sony is retiring the PlayStation 5's Accolade feature, which is something that, users could use to like kind of give like a thumbs up or like, give like a, like a good job to like other people that they're playing with. But they're pulling it because, and this is going to be not a surprise to anyone who's ever played online games, but people are just really mean online. They're salty and they're just like, weren't using it right. And so that feature is going away. And it also just wasn't very popular in general. And so they're pulling the feature. I don't think anyone's going to miss it, but it's just kind of funny. This is why we can't have nice things, because people are mean.
Okay. I am afraid of playing online games because I'm afraid of people. And it's nice.
I'm surprised. I feel like you would go in there and be like, you just bring the toxicity way up. It's like, you just start yelling at people. It's like, you got me killed. What the hell? What? And then you start flaming people.
I don't know. Maybe only to my friends. That's like, it's like I'm pretty fair. Nice to everyone.
Yeah. You keep it friendly in all chat, but then you're like behind the monitor. You're just like screaming obscenities.
Yes, this is why I need to start a Twitch gaming stream. But anyway, speaking of gaming, Microsoft wasn't very nice either to Blizzard, right? What's happening there, Sam?
I mean, this is just like weird corporate shade throwing, I guess. Yeah. And it's like, so basically, Microsoft has, said that they're going to buy Activision Blizzard. And then as part of like this merger process, Microsoft has come out recently saying that like Activision Blizzard doesn't have any notable games or games that like people need to play, which is just like an insane thing to say. It's not even like counting Activision and Call of Duty, but like Blizzard is one of like the, up until recently and like after prior to all the scandals and stuff, like is one of the most beloved major developers of all time. StarCraft, Warcraft, Diablo. Those are like tentpole games for like an entire like saga era of gaming, and it's just like I think this is. To me, this is like a lot of corporate maneuvering, right? Where like, I think they're trying to make it look better. They're trying to like make it seem that like, for any regulators that like, they don't want to like touch like the antitrust or like the monopoly. They don't want to ring that bell and start having people taking like an extra deep look at what this merger could actually mean. And I think that's really like the big like point behind it. But it's like, when you look at it, just like, this doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, like why would you talk crap about a company you're trying to buy, right? Like I was like, all right.
And just like talk crap about their entire portfolio of games, which for the most part has been incredibly beloved and respected.
And popular, yeah. So it's so funny that like, man, it's like you're trying to, I thought they were just trying to devalue the company and so they could get it for cheaper, but I guess that's not the case.
Yeah.
And there was some more gaming, like funny gaming stuff recently.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember seeing, I think it was over the weekend, that people were like saying that, oh my gosh, Stadia is shutting down.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had to come out and like Google had to come out and be like, no, it's not. We're still working on Stadia. Sam, what do you know what actually happened? Like what was going on here?
Basically, there were some rumors and leaks saying that Stadia might shut down. There wasn't any like specific timeline, and that kind of got the Stadia fan base up in a tizzy. And this is like, I think a lot of this happened on Reddit, where it's like, oh my god, I love Stadia, don't shut it down. And I think the reason why this is really funny is that because Google's history of just axing stuff or axing projects willy-nilly, kind of they had to like, I guess, get out in front of it and be like, no, we're not shutting Stadia down. They're trying to like calm everybody down. But it's just funny because like, it's unclear how successful Stadia is in general, and like we don't get like specific Stadia only breakouts in like the earnings reports or anything like that. And so it's like hard to tell like how it's doing compared to like Nvidia GeForce Now or Xbox Cloud Gaming. And it's like, but it's like it's Google. They could cut it down. It's like, there's that website Killed by Google or whatever. And it's like, is Stadia just like the next one on that list? And it's like, okay, no, not yet, or at least not yet. It's still to be, kind of be seen how Stadia is going to develop in the future. Because I know a lot of people were like, we haven't been getting as many new games added to Stadia, and like there hasn't been as much news and development and talk about it. And so I think that was also worrying people a little bit too.
I mean, we're just talking about cloud gaming, right? And maybe Stadia was just too early to the game. Maybe it's just like ahead of the pack in such a way that like the demand just wasn't enough yet.
Yeah.
So it's what happened this weekend too was that like there was apparently like a fan that was very concerned about Stadia shutting down, and so Google had to like tweet back and say Stadia is not shutting down through the Stadia official Stadia Twitter account.
Yeah.
And it said, rest assured, we're always working on bringing more great games to the platform and Stadia Pro. I am just honestly surprised, not to throw more salt into this salty week, but I'm just surprised there's people who love Stadia.
I mean,
Stadia?
I have one of like the original Founders Edition Stadia controllers, so like I was like very excited for it, and then like as I got to use it more, it's like obviously like I'm in a weird situation because I have like all the consoles and I have a gaming PC and stuff like that. So like the idea of just like a pure cloud gaming like app isn't as attractive for me as it might be for someone who like only has like one console, or like they only have like a ultra portable laptop that can't play like the most intense games. So it's kind of interesting on that way, but also like I don't remember maybe back in when they first announced Stadia, people were like, yo, what is Stadia, what is this name? And it's just like very confusing. And so it's like it's interesting to see how Stadia has kind of developed, or some people might think has not developed, over the last 3 years ish.
I just want to point out that Mark Dell in our live stream chat is saying Stadia fan base, both of them.
Yeah, that is like a constant meme about Stadia because, at least Xbox has that built-in user base. Whereas like, Stadia has to attract a new people who are like not necessarily gamers. And so that can be a hard sell sometimes.
And another thing that I saw making the rounds this weekend or these few days, right? People are very concerned about the state of HBO Max, and also a film that may have been canceled, that was canceled, it seems like, right? Sam, tell me about Batgirl, first of all, because I have not been paying attention to the news. I just know it got canceled. Yeah,
so Batgirl was and is a movie that got made, and as far as the reports go, it is completely finished. However, it was originally supposed to launch on HBO Max streaming, and now it's just gone completely. It's been axed. It won't be coming out as far as what Discovery has been saying so far, which is just really kind of weird because the movie is done. Just put it out, like And this, this was supposed to be like, sort of like a big tentpole release for the DC, expanded universe. Michael Keaton is in the movie reprising his role as like the original Batman. Brendan Fraser is in it, who's like has been making a comeback as of late. But I guess the movie's just done. And so the really interesting thing is like the movie didn't get axed because it was bad or because like people thought it was going to like, play poorly to the audience. Apparently, it seems like Discovery, who is now kind of in control of HBO Max and obviously Discovery Plus, they are kind of focusing on movies that can have big blockbuster appeals. And because Batgirl was going to be a streaming movie on HBO Max, it didn't fit in like their quote unquote like game plan. which is just like really weird because, you know, the movie reportedly costs about 90 to 100 million to make, and that's sunk costs. Like, just, you're not getting that money back regardless of whether you release it or not. So you might as well let people see the content, or I guess not in this case.
This is shady as all hell. And I would just say that, like, I don't believe that this is like a done deal. I don't believe that we're never going to see Batgirl ever. I feel like there's going to be a fan movie.
Yes, it's like the Snyder Cut. Please, someone in like HBO Max or Discovery, just leak it. Don't like send me a DM, tell me where to get it, and then like, you know, we'll let the people see it, even if it's not on the service. But like, come on, like, this is the movie's done. Just put it out.
Hashtag Engadget leaks. Hashtag
tips at Engadget.com. If you are on the HBO Max team and you have this file, please send it to us.
Well, I will upload my Signal and my Google Drive account so you can directly upload it, or we transfer it to us. Thank you. We will just release it for you. But speaking of HBO Max too, right? Like, the merger is causing all kinds of anxiety. I know I'm anxious because I don't know what's going to happen. I have HBO Max right now through, I guess, my cable provider. And what's happening? What do I?
Yeah, and so this is like where people are starting to panic because, you know, HBO is like one of the most, like, you know, beloved, you know, the TV development houses, and so now they're like in a place where they're saying that they're going to combine HBO Max and Discovery Plus somehow in the future. They haven't exactly said how. Some people speculate like they might just be like, you know, the libraries will be available on both services, or possibly, and this is, you know, no one knows for sure, like, would they just roll everything from Discovery Plus into HBO Max, or even weirder, would they kill HBO Max and just go full Discovery Plus? I really think that would be a terrible idea, but it also means that, like, you know, similar to Batgirl being axed, Discovery is now going through the process of like looking at their current roster of shows and stuff in development, and some of those shows are starting to get axed too. And so it's like people is like, you know, is my show gonna go away? You know, like John Oliver is, you know, that show is doing great, so that's not in trouble. But like some more like niche stuff, like even stuff like Barry, like people are wondering, like, you know, are they gonna get rid of Barry? It's unclear what the future of HBO Max is, and it's like really sad because they were one of the like the longest running, like, you know, HBO Max shows. Maybe it's not your taste, but like they're generally pretty high quality.
Yeah, I like them. I like them a lot, and I'm hoping that of all the things that you've you know described as possible outcomes, I want the one where they just bundle in Discovery shows into the existing HBO platform. Maybe they had to kill some shows that aren't doing as well that I don't really care about, but I don't have Discovery Plus. I don't think I'll be forced to pay a different fee to access the shows that I already had access to. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm more like, give me more, because remember, like, I think Sam, you're the one that was like, oh, you're on Discovery Plus because of the HGTV or something.
Yeah.
Is that the one? Okay. Yeah. I kind of want Discovery Plus. Julio, our live stream producer, is saying that people are sleeping on Discovery Plus because it's a really good streaming service.
I started off with like a subscription to this Discovery Plus with ads. And like after a week, I'm like, oh no, I need to upgrade. So, cause I don't want ads, cause I've been watching this junk way too much. Yeah, I mean, like I have like a very like weak or soft spot for like home design shows, like
yes, you do.
Like the Property Brothers and stuff like that. So like obviously this is kind of like up my alley. And Julio's saying HBO Max is low key whack, and like
rhymes.
he's not wrong, because like the whole like Crunchyroll like anime integration, like that was kind of rocky, and then like, you know, some of the like for a long time like the service was like very unstable.
It still sometimes is, yeah.
And so it's like it's just like a lot. There's so much stuff up in the air, and then other people other people are pointing to like, oh wait, they killed Batgirl, but they didn't kill the Flash movie, even though like Ezra Miller has been like caught up in like tons of scandals and stuff like that. And it's like, but you know, if you look back to like, you know, what people are saying, you know, the Flash movie is supposed to be a big blockbuster hit, so that actually falls in lines with Discovery's strategy, versus like, you know, Batgirl on streaming on HBO Max didn't necessarily, but it's just like a weird distinction to make.
I think we'll have to keep an eye on what's going to happen here in this biz. But I'm sure we're all concerned, and justifiably so. But maybe it'll mean good things, right? Change doesn't always have to be bad. Hey, life lesson for everybody: embrace change. Therapy time. But the one thing I also want to point out is that this week it looked like 6 movies did get taken down from HBO Max, including something like Moonshot. 6 movies that I wasn't paying attention to. I was just like, oh my gosh, is anything I care about gone? Nothing I care about. Super Intelligence is gone. I think it was House Party, a reboot of House Party is also gone, and there's a a series called Vinyl that is gone. Who knows? Who knows what's happening now to those shows, whether they'll come back or not? Maybe.
The one, I think a Scooby-Doo movie got canceled too. I know for anyone who has fondness for talking dogs, that's kind of sad.
I just wanted to really quickly shout out 2 other pieces of news that I just thought were ridiculous. First of all, Pearson wants to mint NFTs now. Or like Pearson wants to turn some of his textbooks into NFTs. Cool. Not like your textbooks weren't expensive enough already, but
yeah,
you know,
that's just like combining 2 things that people are already annoyed about and making it just even worse. Because are you gonna lower the prices of your textbook? Probably not. So it's like, what is this actually helping for people who are buying the textbooks? Exactly.
It's pretty weird. I forgot what the last thing was. I just realized I didn't write it down anywhere. What's my last thing? What is my last thing?
Was it the Alex Jones texts?
No, it's something else. But I mean, do we want it? I think we can skip the Alex.
Yeah,
Jones
I think we can skip that because it's not quite tech,
not really
centric enough.
But if you want to see someone just take a verbal beating in court, go follow what's going on with the Alex Jones trials. It's been quite entertaining.
Okay, so let's get a cap on the other news.
I'm still trying to find my last thing.
Oh yeah, could it be Winamp?
Probably. Yes, thank you. Sorry, I screamed.
No, okay, no, that doesn't go to me. That goes to Mark Dell.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. That in the chat.
Yes, thank you. Okay, last thing.
Okay, so we're yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last thing that was like the most fun headline I feel like we had this week was Winamp, the music players that your parents love, is back.
Well, hold on. I like Winamp. I used to use a Winamp. Winamp is not that old.
And you are a parent now, but your kid's not reading Engadget.
Okay, fine. Sure, okay.
But your kid's not reading Engadget. Your kid's 1 year old or maybe less. It's just so funny to me. I saw that and I saw the tweet replies to the tweet from the Engadget account, and I was going through and liking all of them. Everyone was being really shady. They were like, this headline chose violence. This headline. It was like, yes. But I think this week was a fun week for the Engadget team in terms of headlines and strange news. If you have any alternate headline ideas, you can always feel free to send them over to podcast@engadget.com. Keep them PG-13 though.
Okay, great.
I think we can take a break at the end. Let's just plow through.
Let's just go straight through. That's what I thought too. So let's do working on.
All right, let's move on to what we've been working on. Sam, I know you're just knee deep or neck deep in testing. What do you got going on?
Yep, I am still testing power bricks. I got MSI's 15-inch gaming machine, the Stealth 15M, in for review. That might be like a couple weeks out, but we'll see. It's obviously a very busy season because Sherlyn and I'm doing this too, but we're both kind of in knee deep in preparation for Samsung Unpacked.
Yes, that is what I've been working on. Lots of Samsung prep. And me and Sam are co-hosting a live stream happening on the day of Unpacked. We'll start about 30 minutes before Samsung goes live at about 9 a.m. Eastern, which means you can come on over to the Engadget YouTube channel at about 8:30 or 8:40 a.m. Eastern, which is ass early in the morning for me, but there we go. And we will have fun, do a pre-show, maybe a pre-game, and then let Samsung do its thing, and then stick around to talk about what they've announced for a little bit after that too. So it should be a good time. If you're a foldable fan at all, or just you like gadgets, come join us. It'll be fun. Now, when we're not talking about work, we did talk a lot about shows that we're like nervous about getting taken away, but Sam, what have you been watching?
So I finished Stranger Things finally, after like getting through those like mini movie per episode scenario where it's like each movie is like an hour and a half or 2.5 hours for the last episode. I watched the first episode of The Old Man, and I think that show is really good.
What's that about?
It's about a guy who used to be in like a spy or like in the military or something, and now I've only watched the first episode, and now it seems like his past is coming back to get him. It's kind of in like the Taken vein, where it's like, or like the John Wick vein, for where like you have someone who had gotten out of the game and then now is being pulled back in. But it's got Jeff Bridges as the main person, and Jeff Bridges is like an incredible actor, and so I think it's really interesting. Like if you look at like the TV landscape, you have a lot of big movie stars who are now going back to TV, or for the first time going to TV, and then doing like, episodic stuff. And it's really interesting to see how that is like, kind of combining a lot of like the things that people love about movies, but then bringing it to a small screen that, plays out over, multiple episodes. And so far it's been really, really good. And then I'm also, still plowing my way through the season 4 of Umbrella Academy, which is great. I have some issues with this season, but I know, Sherlyn, you're watching that too, so I don't want to do any spoilers.
We've been talking. I may have even mentioned it on the show before, but I was gonna just piggyback on your pick and make that be my pick this week too. Yeah, Umbrella Academy season 4, featuring Elliot Page. I think I'm this is sounding familiar to me. I just enjoyed how they handled the narrative around Elliot Page's character identifying.
Right, they brought her transition into the show in a really like it didn't feel forced. It felt like part of like that character story, which also, even though it's not necessarily like, obviously the character and the actor are not the same person, but it was really interesting to see them kind of tie these things together in a way that is like, you really felt like it was natural, and and they like gave it the right weight that I think that whole situation deserves.
Yeah, and I know that Elliot Page was very happy about it, and I saw the interviews he did with a lot of late night show talk hosts, and yeah, he had input, right, like on how he wanted this story addressed too. I think they just worked together to create a very comfortable environment for the show to just take this on, and it's an important story that needs to be told. I think that you can look at the reactions from the other characters reacting to the news of the transition there. I forget the character's name, is why it's so difficult to talk about this. I'm just like, what was Elliot Page's character's name in the show again? Like, well, Vanya, but then Victor. Yeah. So Victor's transition story, I think, was handled well. I think it's nice to see how a lot of different reactions.
Yeah. And I thought it was really cool in the show how when the character introduced like, oh, this is my new name now, all of the siblings were just like, oh, cool. Like, yeah. You're still our sibling. We still love you. Yeah. And this is, we accept this, what this means to you.
Yes. So anyway, if I just think it was a good watch. I think the story was also good. I have seen all of it, but I need to like rewatch it because like I fell asleep through some of it, and that's not the show's fault. It's just me.
Yeah, and if you fall asleep for one episode, you're gonna be completely lost.
You miss a lot.
Yeah.
But Sam, do you have one more recommendation for people? Or?
I do. So if anyone's looking for a game to play, I've been playing Shotgun King, which is kind of like a roguelite chess game, except that you don't actually, it has a lot of the chess rules, but you actually play as the king piece, and the king has a shotgun, but the people you're playing against have to do normal chess moves. So this is like the greatest game for people who like me, who like appreciate chess, but know that they're not any good, because now I get to like try to strategize, but then I have the ultimate like secret weapon, which is a shotgun, and it's just like, it's so much fun. It's like super cheap. It's like less than $10. It might be even on sale on Steam right now. Okay. But it's just like, it's such a great like game that like you feel, it makes you feel smarter than you are, because like, oh, it's like, oh, I'm gonna like fork this knight over here, and then I'm gonna blast him, and then it's like, then you have all these like pawns coming in waves at you, but like they can't touch you because they're pawns and you have a shotgun. And so it's just like it's a great game. It's like such a neat like cute twist on just traditional chess. And because a game takes like 30 minutes, you can play a game in between stuff, and it's not like you have to sit down and like prepare yourself like The Last of Us, where like, you have to like clear your schedule because you want to play this for 2 hours at a time or 3 hours at a time. I've just been having a lot of fun. And it's kind of right up my alley. But if you like chess plus, I guess this is like that. This is the game for you.
Is it on Steam only, or is like what platforms?
It's PC, and I can't remember the other platforms, but I know it's on PC, and definitely on Steam.
Okay, because I might get on my Switch and try it out.
And the graphics aren't insane, so it'll run on anything. Like, you don't need to have a gaming PC. It's like, it's a 2D game. It has kind of like a retro pixelated style. So it'll run on anything. And so it's a great like travel game if you're like on a business trip and you don't have your like gaming PC with you.
All right, I'll have to check it out. All right, Ben, I think we're good.
Yeah, let's get that outro.
All right. Well, that's it for the episode this week, everyone. Thank you, as always, for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our very own Terrence O'Brien. The podcast is produced by Ben Ellman. You can find Sam online at
Sam Rutherford on Twitter.
If you want to send me funny headlines to stories that actually do exist, I'm at Sherlyn Lowe on Twitter. Email us your thoughts at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review, please, on iTunes, and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts.
Okay, we are clear and ready to talk to chat again.
Live stream chat time. Woohoo! Quinn Thompson said, thanks, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We're doing a bit of a Q&A now, so you can stick around if you want. If not, bye. Have fun.
So I have a bunch of questions banked questions and comments banked. So we have Dude Dame Charlie saying, did you see that Panasonic tiny phone? Now that was compact. I mean, that's a whole other class of phone, though.
Yeah.
I saw one when we were actually in the Engadget office. I have not set foot in the Engadget office since like December. No. Since like February, March 2020. But there was one like really tiny phone, like seriously fit right in the palm of your hand. And someone said that it was
that was the palm phone.
Yeah. But so that was really tiny, and it was actually meant to kind of be a companion to like a bigger phone that you had in your like pocket or your backpack or something.
It started off that way. And this is one of the reasons I'm still upset about that phone, because when it first launched, it was designed to be a companion phone. So you needed to, it was only available on Verizon, and you needed to have a regular phone, and then you could add that to your contract as like something you take when you go running. But it was actually a full phone. You could use it just totally normal for everything. And it wasn't until like 6 months or maybe a year later when they let you just buy that phone on its own and use it as your main device.
And it was adorable too.
It's just so it's super. Yeah, it's super cute, and it's like it feels like a little pebble in your hands. And one of the fun things about it is that technically that phone is called the Palm because the name of the company is Palm, but then the phone is also called the Palm. And so I still have one. That phone is awesome. I wish that they would come out with a second one. Stephen Curry, who is an investor in that company and was involved with the design of that phone. Steph Curry, if you're listening,
the elder Splash brother.
Yeah, the Golden State Warrior, the best shooter in the world. He is was part of that company. Steph Curry, if you're listening and you want to talk to us about what you're doing with that next phone, please bring it back. We're here for that.
All right, Sam, you gotta shoot your shot, I guess.
Yeah.
Shoot your shot. All right.
Okay, so we've got Braska Banny saying that people only buy big phones because they're the only ones with the high-end specs. Mm-hmm. That is understandable. Is it really that you need the big footprint? Probably. You also probably need the bigness in order to get the correct like amount of airflow or like heat dissipation. So that totally makes sense. Then when we were talking about cloud gaming in all its forms, Buddy 305 Love said that cloud gaming companies are just trying to force subscription-based gaming, trying to kill the disc and digital downloads, which, if we remember all the way back to when discs were prominent and you were only starting to get downloads, people were saying, oh no, this is not good because they're trying to take your, do you really own your game?
Yep.
You might have the save file on like your local device, but that doesn't mean very much if you can't access the game or if you can't re-download the game after you've deleted it. Connect this with the fact that the 3DS and Wii U store were shut down in late March. So if you didn't like fill those devices with everything that you wanted from those specific stores, you cannot get some of those games anymore. You're going to have to turn to piracy or emulators or something like that. So I think it's something to seriously think about, because subscription-based gaming means that you might not even have your own save files on your local device, which is irksome. You know, where is the like nostalgia factor? Where is the, oh, I totally forgot that I even had this game, you know, go back and play it 4 years later. It might just end up being depreciated or something. They might say, oh, we want space on it. Yeah, maybe deprecated. Not depreciated. Depreciation is a tax thing. But it might just end up getting like kicked off the servers because they're saying like, oh, well, you know, we need room for, you know, Call of Duty 2K25 that has, you know, a 700 gigabyte download or it's
and there's gigs. Yeah, and then there's two like weird, like really annoying consumer wrinkles for this. Is like, not only do you not own your games, but you know, everything like today is getting pushed towards a subscription model. So businesses love this because they get a regular
software
monthly
software
as a service. They get their monthly revenue stream, and it's like more predictable instead of like having like, oh, I sell something in like March and then I don't have a new product for another 6 months. And so it's like really like annoying because not only are you just like constantly having to shell out money for stuff that you use all the time, but it's like it definitely calls into the question of ownership. Of like, do you actually own your games, but do you own your music, and do you own the movies that you watch? And then this is like kind of like cycling back. It's like piracy is like kind of making a comeback because there's so many things, and so often like shows are like getting cut from a service and then they go to another service, and so it's like
getting so balkanized that it's like, okay, it's, you know, the golden age of Netflix. I wasn't even actually a part of the golden age of Netflix streaming, like back in like 2000,
when they had everything.
When they had everything, because none of these studios knew what their back catalogs were worth, or they didn't even think about what they were worth because like that didn't really exist. That idea of value didn't really exist. And now there are a lot of Mandalorian. There are a lot of ways to get the Mandalorian online without having to subscribe to Disney Plus. Let me just say that.
Really quickly, because I'm such a sucker for stuff like this, dude named Charlie did say this podcast is amazing.
Thank you.
And also that dude named Charlie says that they love that we allow the chat, which, yeah, I mean, why not? We're here to talk to you guys.
I think I saw that they said that it's like rare among podcasts, which makes sense. We're trying to do kind of a kind of like Twitch stream podcast hybrid, and it's really me who's being the stickler, me being the audio producer saying, hey guys, let's not just talk to chat, because if you end up listening to the podcast after the fact, especially if you live in an area where you can't just like watch the live stream, you know, if you're not on the US East Coast time zone, then yeah, like it wouldn't be fun to listen to just people responding to chat and not being able to do that.
Speaking of areas, Ankit Hanta says hello from Nepal, so hi.
Oh, dope.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, what time is it there?
Dope as shit, man.
Tell us what time it is.
I'm gonna guess something like 11 p.m., but anyway.
Yeah. So dude named Charlie also mentioned something. So we let me connect two things. We have Non-Decor saying in relation to like PS5 and like the PS5 accolades that they couldn't have even tried the PS5 accolades because they can't get their hands on a PS5 console. Then dude named Charlie said that they were at a pawn shop, and they said that there were a couple of PS5s that were priced at $1,500 and $950. So
wow.
If you're wondering if there's still a supply crunch on PS5s, that is your macroeconomic indicator. Pawn shops pricing them at basically what they would be priced at on like eBay or whatever.
Wow. For Ankit who in Nepal says it's 9:20 p.m. So I was off base, but
okay. No, that's
9:20 p.m. is also bad.
Yeah, no, that's like a chill time to be like watching stuff. Thank you for using the Engadget podcast as your prime time viewing.
Yes,
prime time like evening viewing.
And
wind down at night.
Yes. All right. Was there anything else, Ben?
Anon Proton said that the OnePlus 10T exists because different phones are for different purposes. 10T is obviously an awesome phone for mobile gamers with the power, charging and cooling tech gains over the OP10 Pro.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very fair point. And, that's kind of like goes back to like, not everyone has the same requirements in a phone. And it's like, that's why we appreciate like the audience interaction, because, if you are a gamer and you really care about that speed and fast charging, yeah, the 10T could be a great phone.
Jonathan Anderson looks like they're back and was very excited about the Palm phone. Jonathan Anderson, if you want to go back, we addressed one of your comments and question earlier in the show. So I forget what by now because I have very bad short-term memory. I'm very old, y'all.
I think John also asked Ben if he said balkanized, which is just like a weird miscommunication because you meant balkanized.
No, not vulcanized. No, vulcanized is bringing things together. Balkanized is putting things apart.
Oh, he said bulk as in like you're lifting weights, which I just thought that's just like a funny like portmanteau creation. There you go. Show off the gun, Sherlyn.
Oh man, we got free tickets to the gun show. No, yes,
I mean bulk.
You're gonna pull a muscle. Yeah, be careful.
I meant balkanized as in the kind of history reference to like
BALKAN.
Yes, all these little states in the Balkans like breaking apart and fighting with each other and stuff. And that's exactly what's happening in the streaming landscape right now. Disney took a bunch of stuff off of Netflix and took it to their service.
Yeah. All right. Lots of, I mean, Mark Dell is talking about the podcast being a Prime podcast. Thanks a lot. We're not owned by Amazon. No, thank you.
Yeah, no. And I was going to say that we never will be, but like, I haven't seen it.
Don't say that. That's like asking the corporate gods to mess with us.
God damn it, Ben, you did it, but it's okay. It's all right. Ben's, you know what? Don't listen to
I shoot my mouth off a lot. So no, don't take me as the person for that.
Knock on wood.
Yes, no, I don't speak for Engadget corporate. So send big checks their way if you need to. What else? Oh, so there were a few people talking about the Retroid Pocket. And this was just like an internal chat conversation between like Buddy 305 Love, Mark Dell. It's just nice to be living in a time where there are so many like little emulator pocket things.
Yep.
The cranky.
The cranky guy.
The Playdate.
Yes, the Playdate.
I don't love the Playdate, but I do have an order for the Analog Pocket that I placed like a year and a half ago, and I'm still waiting for it to come. I think that's one of like the really cool things about the like tech landscape right now is like a lot of the solutions that people are coming up with to like preserve games and play retro games. And I think that's really cool. And yeah.
The thing that makes me really happy is that there's enough of a market for it. Like the Analog Pocket is booked out, a year or so in advance. You can't get a Playdate until like 2020, like late 2023 or something now. And while the wait is not fun, I think it's really cool that that style of thinking persists, because I think that could lead to other like interesting innovation. Someone who makes one of their first games for the Playdate might end up being the person who, makes a really fun and fresh game for a bigger house sometime in the future.
Yep.
So all right.
I think we're done, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. So let's first of all, whenever I remember, I like to do this. Thanks to our closed captioner for
I was going to do that. Thank you, closed captioner.
Okay, good. I'm glad you remembered.
Tiny heart.
Thank you. We appreciate it. it's always difficult with the crosstalk and talking about words that no one uses. So we appreciate it. And Ben, go ahead and do the rest of your thing.
Yes. So this stream comes to you via our video team, which is Julio Barrientos and Luke Brooks. If you've stuck around this long, we know that we live in a world of algorithms more than the average person. You're smart about tech. You know that we need that juice on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. And so just like rate us 5 stars, give us a good rating. See if you can rate us again. I'm not sure. And tell a couple of friends to rate us and make sure that other people can find this show. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.